Welcome to Harmony Talk, a podcast about dreamers and doers. Hear people from all walks of life tell us about their dreams and the moment they knew there was no turning back as they went from dreaming to doing. This podcast is sponsored by AM Skyer, a third-generation family insurance business started in 1920. My name is Greg Frigoletto, your host for this episode. For today's episode of Harmony Talk, I am delighted to have a conversation with Lindsey Chrismon. Lindsay is a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. She's an accomplished helicopter pilot, received her MBA from the Harvard Business School, is a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and the CEO and co-founder of Oply, an innovational home predictive maintenance app that I am excited to hear more about. Lindsay, welcome to Harmony Talk.
Thanks, Greg. It's so exciting to be here.
We are thrilled to have you, and I know as we were talking prior to today that you are extremely busy, so carving a little bit of time out of your day to be with us is really appreciated on our end.
Yeah, no, yes, we are very, very busy, but I'm always happy to have, exciting conversations, especially with your audience. What a great place to be right now.
We appreciate that. So to begin, if you would, we are going to be reminding everybody that this is a podcast that looks to inspire by sharing stories like your story that demonstrate that dreams can become a reality, even when there are great obstacles to overcome. In other words, Lindsay, dreamers become doers.
Yeah.
Now, when preparing for this today, I have to be completely honest with you. Normally, we do an intro that I scramble to kind of get right. Yours was exceptionally hard for me to keep it short and concise. There's so much that I could have added into it. But with what I did add, I'm hoping as we go through this, we'll get into a little bit of what is on the meat of the bones, if you will, of the things that I briefly mentioned at the intro. But if we could, let's start at the beginning. And for you, as I was preparing for today, I read somewhere and I really found it interesting that maybe even as early as like 10 or 11 years old, you realized and had a vision of one day attending West Point. Now, normally, I remember when I was 10, I think my toughest decisions of the day were like vanilla or chocolate, but you were like this 10 or 11-year-old that was already, pinning West Point on your calendar. Tell us about that. How did that happen? And, what motivated you at such an early age, if in fact it's true that you were that age?
It is true. And, I think it all kind of stems from my childhood and my upbringing. I'm the oldest of three, and I have two younger brothers. We're all very close in age. And ever since all three of us could walk, we have just been best friends. And we are very outdoorsy type of people. I think our parents just shoved us out the back door and said, don't come home until it's dark out. And we just grew up, with such a close relationship, and we were building tree forts and going on bike rides and, swimming in the local river and just doing all these different types of things. And I grew up as a tomboy. And this is a crazy story. I actually wrote it in my Harvard application essay. I actually came home one day and I had my head shaved, all of my hair off. I was just it's just easier to ride my bike, and I'm sweating all the time with my helmet. I'm just going to cut my hair off just like my brothers. And I just kind of always embodied that tomboy personality. And so when you're right, I was 11 at the time. My dad actually took our whole family, my mom, my two brothers, and I up to West Point for a family picnic. And my dad's kind of he just loves our country's history. So every time you see a brown sign on the side of the highway, Stonewall Jackson's burial place, you better believe we're pulling off to the side.
Yeah, you're stopping.
Stopping. And so West Point, of course, we grew up in New Jersey, only an hour away from the academy. We've got to go check out West Point. And I don't know what it was, but I literally even have goosebumps right now. I've told the story so many times, but I just fell in love with everything that I saw from that young age. We did a small picnic out on Trophy Point. We walked around. There were new cadets, which I didn't even know what new cadets were at the time, doing combatives out on one of the athletic fields. I'm pretty sure, at least maybe if my memory serves me right, a helicopter flew overhead while I was there. It was just this surreal experience. And I was such a young person, and I felt this sense of energy when I was there. And I just came home and just started to do a little bit of like reading on West Point and asked my parents a bunch of questions. And they're like, why are you asking all these questions about West Point? We just went up there for a picnic. And one day I just kind of like sat them down and was like, I want to go to West Point for college. And
Yeah.
I mean, they were, I was so young. They're like, okay, yeah, sure, go
Right.
outside
Right.
and play. And no, I just kept with that ambition, and it ended up being the only school that I applied to.
It's amazing. Like you, I toured West Point, not as young as when you first toured it, a little bit later. Blew me away.
Yeah.
Everything about it blew me away and inspired me. I didn't apply there, but clearly it is an amazing place. Now, to get in, even at a young age, you probably, through the reading that you did, knew, okay, so have to check the academics box, have to check the extracurricular box, community service box, demonstrate that I could be a leader box. So as you're going through your youth, through your middle school, high school years, did that ebb and flow for you, or was your focus like razor sharp and you didn't vary from what you knew you needed to do to have that acceptance?
Yeah. So I'm the kind of person, and I know this because of how I was going through those fundamental years before I applied to college, that if I have a goal in mind, I'm going to be very hyper focused on that goal. I mean, when I was, going through the middle school years, as awkward as it was, like all I cared about, if I'm on a sports team, I ran track, I need to be captain of that team. Like I have to start to win races. Like I put a lot of pressure on myself to, I don't want to say be the best at what I was doing, because I rarely was ever the best at what I was doing, but I just always knew I needed to stand out in some capacity. So whether it's, be the captain of the team or be a leader within the church or, be on like the National Honor Society. I was on the Spanish National Honor Society in AP classes in high school. I always like pushed myself to the next level and put the effort in, so that I could stand out in those regards. So yeah, I had been hyper focused on that throughout my entire career. And I think it, as a young person going through some of those days, I think, you could start to make really good decisions for your life, or you could start to make really poor decisions for your life. And I think having that goal at such a young age kept me on the track of, I'm going to stay focused on sports. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to make sure that, I'm active in my community and all those different types of roles and responsibilities, because I had that goal and that end state of, I really want to go to West Point. And
It's interesting. I think young people, when they have goals and they have ambitions like you've just described, and you're going through those, let's say, like you described it as awkward teen years, clearly you're going to make,
awkward.
yeah, well, clearly you're going to make mistakes along the way. And I guess the hope would be for every young person that the mistake or mistakes that you make aren't going to be so significant that they really might change your course.
Right.
Right?
No, yeah. I mean, it could be little things. Like there was one instance where I was in high school. I think it was like right when I had gotten my driver's license. So I hadn't fully applied to West Point yet, but like during that time, I was so like, I have everything has to be right. I can't get in trouble. I can't do anything wrong. Like, people
Right.
are starting to drink at this age, underage.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I gotta be good.
Right.
And I got into a car wreck, and it was my fault 100%. And that was just devastating for me. I didn't even think of the consequences of the wreck itself. It was always, oh, West Point's going to find out about this. My coach is going to find out about this. So yeah, there was always this like, maybe it was, I mean, I think it was just me. I was, putting that pressure on myself, and I was kind of like instilling fear within myself so that I kept going towards like that end state.
Well, and I'll tell you, it worked because you got there. You got to West Point, and once you got there, I mean, truly incredible things happened, like it does for many people there. But for you in particular, going into your senior year, you were named brigade commander and first captain of the U.S. Corps of Cadets. You were only the fourth female to ever be assigned to that position. And then again, in the same topic, and I'll say trailblazing women. It's also true that during your military duty, I think you assessed for the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. You were selected to fly the AH-6M Little Bird, making you the first female in the history of the U.S. military to fly
Yeah.
that helicopter. Now, those are huge accomplishments. Can you tell us a little bit about the rigor of that process, what that was like to be able to accomplish that?
Yeah, definitely. I guess I'll start with just really quickly the first captain stint of my life. I didn't go to West Point with my ambition was go to West Point, and then I wanted to be a helicopter pilot. The first captain piece kind of just came with time. I had no ambitions to be the first captain while I was there. I really just wanted to get good grades and, make some really solid friends and be the captain of the track team was a goal for me. And
Which, by the way, happened.
yes, I was also the captain of
Yeah,
the
right.
track team.
Yeah.
And which was a lot of responsibility for
Right.
one person during my senior year.
Yeah.
Because I was appointed as the captain before I was the first captain. I was like, I don't think I could do both. And I have stories about all of that. But yeah, the first captain role I think it's just kind of comes down once again to being the kind of person who wants to do the right thing, who always has this little voice in the back of my head is like, try harder, do better, go for the most challenging thing possible. And my TAC NCO at the time, who is an enlisted, senior individual who was in charge of us, who was also a mentor to me, really encouraged me to apply for a key summer leader position. And I went through the entire board process, and I'm against, literally the smartest, most brilliant, most athletic individuals in the country who are my classmates for this position. And I'm thinking to myself, like, there's no way I will ever be chosen for an actual, high stakes key summer leader position. And inevitably through the process, I was chosen as the King of Beast, which is you're in charge of the entire cadet basic training for all of the new cadets. So when I was 11 and I saw the new cadets out, doing combatives, I was now the person in charge of all of those. So it was a really crazy and experience that changed the trajectory of my life for sure. And then I performed well during that. It was almost like a test, an assessment in itself. And then I was named the first captain after that. It was a year of a lot of stress, a lot of personal development for myself, because it's peer leadership.
Right.
You're named the first captain, but you're the same as everybody else. You're not different in any capacity. There's no actual real hierarchy in that sense. We're all seniors at West Point. So it was all about peer leadership. And that was a really instrumental thing for me to learn in a high stakes position. So I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity. And I think that's also kind of what I learned there allowed me to develop into the leader that I became in the military. Once I graduated, I then branched aviation, which was my goal. And I went down to flight school and I became an Apache helicopter pilot first. And I flew the Apache for about 4 years. I had a phenomenal unit. I was out at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And then I decided, I think I want to assess for the 160th, for Special Operations Aviation Regiment. And I sat down with my battalion commander at the time. And I knew that there had never been a woman who had favorably assessed for that particular aircraft that I wanted to fly, the Little Bird. But I really wanted to stay on an attack platform. And the Little Bird, it's like this, especially the AH-6, it's this coveted, very few pilots ever get to fly this aircraft. So for me, it was, this massive challenge, and I really wanted to go for it. My battalion commander was like, that could leave a red mark if you're probably not going to get selected for it. You might end up flying a different airframe. Are you comfortable with that? Do you really want to leave flying the Apache? Because the 160th doesn't fly that airframe. And I kind of just put all of those doubts aside and went for it. And
Right.
it was a really, really, really challenging assessment process. Once again, I think I probably put more pressure on myself than I needed to. But I just had that mindset of, one, I will not quit during this assessment process. And two, no matter what the outcome is, I know it'll be for the best, right? So if, they give me the handshake at the end and they say, welcome to the regiment, you're going to be flying, let's say, the DAPS or the Chinook, that would have been completely fine. There was a reason for it. I wasn't ready. I wasn't the person that should be filling those shoes. And I did get the handshake to fly the Little Bird after, which was incredible.
Yeah.
But it was the week of assessment. I can't get into too many details about it because it's kind of like secret,
Hmm.
but it was very incredibly physically demanding. It was only a week long, but it felt like 10 months. There was no sleep involved. They basically found ways to keep you up all week, and a lot of like psychological tests and knowledge based tests and flying tests, and it was tough. It really was.
Yeah.
But I think I just had like a little angel on my shoulder that kept my chin up, kept my drive moving forward, and it ended up working out. And
It's incredible
cool.
when you talk like you did. I do know a little bit, again, without getting into the details of the rigor, physical, psychological that you went through for that to happen. It's incredible that it happened. And at some point, when you're going through things like that, you talk about something like imposter syndrome, right? Where
Yeah,
you're like, boy, I'm surrounded by the most elite people in the country for these things.
yeah.
When you leave something like that, is it not possible for imposter syndrome to exist in your psyche moving forward? Does that give you the sort of confidence I think, no, I belong here? And now really, you know what? I could do anything.
I think I would like to make the argument that it should, right? Like if
Right.
you
Yeah.
think logically about some of the things that I've done in the past, nothing should ever, fear me or, create a sense of doubt or that sense of imposter syndrome. But for me, it's not the case.
Okay.
I mean, I think it also kind of comes down to the fact for my career and what I've pursued. I'm always going after something a little bit different.
Mhm.
Things haven't been the same. I think if I had stayed in the military and maybe went after another, high stakes ambitious role within the military, I'd be very very confident. But I took a complete 180 and went to business school.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And just before we do move on, perhaps not having fully left the possibility of imposter syndrome, maybe there's a little bit of something being healthy about that, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, there's confident is great. Overconfident could be a little bit of a problem, but you're in a good place, right? And it's allowed you definitely to move into other things, which I do
Yeah.
want to talk about. You mentioned through some of your description that we just had there that leadership is some of what you were assigned, and it's tremendous leadership. And prior to today, you and I talked a little bit about, I believe I could safely say maybe both of us, one of our favorite leadership speeches of all time, The Man in the Arena by Teddy Roosevelt. And in my opinion, truly it's the greatest of all time. And for any of our listeners who have not heard the Man in the Arena speech, you have to find it when you're done listening to this today, and pay attention because it's fantastic.
Yeah. And
Why,
put
why,
yourself in the arena.
put yourself in the arena. Yeah. So why does that quote resonate so much with you?
The man in the arena is the embodiment of where everyone wants to be, but people just feel like they're maybe inadequate's not the right word, but a little bit of a lack of confidence, or I'm not qualified for this. But the crazy thing about the man in the arena is he also wasn't qualified to be in the arena. But if you push yourself to certain limits, the what you learn about yourself is so much stronger than if you ever held yourself back.
Right.
I always like to think of it, and I think this kind of goes into like the imposter syndrome type of like topic that we were just discussing, like where I stand now. And yes, I still face imposter syndrome, but I think what I've learned in the past, because I've put myself in the arena so many times prior to where I am now, it's not that I don't feel imposter syndrome, it's that I now have a sense of confidence when it comes to my own judgment. So I can trust my own judgment. And I think that if you're not putting yourself in the shoes of someone who can actually make decisions under pressure, or with lack of information, and see what those outcomes actually are, you're never going to have that ability to trust your own judgment. And to put yourself in the arena is being able to eventually learn that you can trust, you as an individual and what judgment calls you're going to make. So I think that's kind of like, yes, I still feel imposter syndrome, but now I understand, even when I'm in high pressure situations, if, there's a lack of information, whatever it is, I can still trust my judgment calls. And I think that's like the one thing that keeps driving me forward.
I think that's spectacular, and I would agree with everything you said. And really, the only thing I would add to the Man in the Arena as far as my impression, is that I have no time for Monday morning quarterbacks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when you dare to be in the arena versus those that might choose to sit on the sidelines, um, having strong opinions about what happened in the arena, when you're watching, are two very different things. So I appreciate that. Now, you also talked earlier, we did briefly about, your involvement in athletics. And oftentimes when people talk about leadership, if they've never participated in athletics, they don't necessarily like to make the crosswalk between athletics and how it transcends into developing leadership.
Mm.
Where do you stand on athletics and how leadership skills can be developed through it?
So I think there's a multifaceted level of leadership when it comes to sports. I think that there's like the team aspect of leadership where maybe you are the captain of the team and you are actually put into a leadership role where you're making the decisions for the team. But I also think there's different layers of it, all the way down to the individual layer where you're a member of that team and you have to be a leader not only to the rest of your team, but also to yourself, to make the best decisions for yourself. For me, I ran track, which is not people don't really think like, oh, track's it's a very individual sport. You're not a team. But I think that's what makes track such a unique way to learn how to be a leader because everyone it's so individualized and
It
everyone
is, yeah.
cares about their own time. But guess what? That 4x4 relay, that one person who is a high jumper or a long jumper, no matter what the event is, it's all point based. And at the end of the day, the same points are allocated to the winner of the long jump that as they are to, the winner of the 4x4, whatever relay race there is.
Mhm.
And so as the captain of the track team, you have to be able to manage the big picture of what's going on, but also everyone down to that individual level. So I think, when it comes to sports, one thing that I really learned when it came to leadership was how to motivate individuals on that individual level because some people are motivated internally, some are external, like or intrinsic and extrinsic is what I meant to say. And it's just such a unique way to learn about each person on your team and learn how to motivate that one individual and then find a way to get the team together and like towards that common goal. So it's just like, I don't know, for me it's like top level, yes, you have to manage everybody and you have to understand what the team needs as a whole and how are we going to motivate everybody towards that big goal, but also how are we going to make sure that, the youngest, most junior person on that team feels empowered and motivated to make the contributions to the team so that the whole entire team can get towards that goal. So it's a leadership within a team is a very, very unique, I think it's like complex type of thing.
I would agree with all of that. I have experience as I was a high school and college wrestler, and I always thought, boy, it's one of the toughest sports going, and it's so individualized, a lot like you just described track to be. And I have two daughters, and my younger daughter got into running, and I said to her at one point after she crossed the finish line and literally collapsed because she pushed herself that hard. I said, you do realize what you just accomplished isn't that you ran a good race and you pushed yourself that hard, but you've just forced me to never allow you to make an excuse about anything moving forward.
Yeah.
Because if you're willing to push yourself that hard, you can't tell me there's any reason why you couldn't get your homework done moving forward. And,
Exactly.
yeah, and I really think sports creates that individual perseverance that really transcends into life. Now, we're going to move now from sports into Harvard Business School. So your military experience ends. You went on to receive your MBA at Harvard. And when you entered Harvard, did you already have your entrepreneurial vision intact going into it? You kind of knew what path you wanted to head down?
Yeah, I actually did. So I wrote my essay going into Harvard, and for anyone that's applying to an MBA program, let me know if you need help because I can help craft your essay for you or with you. But I actually wrote my essay saying that I wanted to go into consulting and that I wanted to be the CEO of Boeing one day, right? Because it makes for this really good story. I flew 2 Boeing aircraft. Boeing has never had a female CEO. Boeing was going through a couple of rough time periods there. So it made for really great conversation. But in the back of my mind, I knew I don't want to go into consulting and I don't want to be the CEO of Boeing one day. I want to start my own company and maybe take it public or, grow it as much as I possibly can. And I think that came out very, very clearly during my interview for HBS. because one of one of the interview questions, he was like, "I just have this feeling that you don't want to be a consultant," and I was like, "Uh oh." I
Right.
thought I was like,
Yeah. Where's this going?
caught me red-handed.
Yeah.
And I just told him the honest truth during the interview. I was like, honestly, I'm not going to recruit for consulting. I already have this, my husband and I have this idea for a business that we want to start. We want to kind of like incubate it in Harvard's Innovation Lab. And I want to launch it while I'm at HBS. And I ran through kind of like, my first stakes at a business model that we had. It was really an idea at that point. And I think it worked out because I still got in, even though my interview was completely different than my essay. But I think he could see that I was actually very passionate about starting this business.
So through that experience, through the Innovator Lab, getting that degree, it did help you form into what we're going to talk about next, which specifically is Oply. Now, before we get into it, have you ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire?
I'm
Okay,
really
well,
bad at movies.
all right. Well, in that movie, there's a line where it goes like this: "You had me at hello." You've probably heard the line. But anyway, when I was researching Oply and looking into it, in the very beginning of what I was looking into, something that you probably came up with that's part of the information said something along the lines of, "A home is more than just a place." You
Mhm.
know, and I have to say, you had me at that line because I think there's such significance in that line that a home is more than just a place. And if we could say that Oply kind of begins with that premise,
Yeah.
right? Let's talk, if we could, just for a minute, of what does that line mean to you?
Yeah, that is a very, very thoughtful and curated line. Um, so I'll give a little bit of context as to the background. Like, why did we kind of come up with this idea that the home is a sacred place? It's where, we have our fondest memories. It's, where we sit down for our dinners with our families. It's where we have massive fights. It's literally the place where we feel the safest, but also we gain the most development there. And when my husband got out of the military in 2020 and started his first company, and it was a restoration company. So he worked on like fire, mold, water remediation in residential properties. And we'd go on these jobs together, and it was just honestly really disheartening to see the catastrophes that were going on in these homes. These people did not deserve, these massive losses. It's something like, your dryer catches on fire, which happens, or your water heater, if you don't flush it, explodes. There's all of these, a little leak leads to a massive issue, and then you're paying thousands of dollars out of pocket. And insurance companies are just so difficult to work with. And we were just seeing like the heartache of these homeowners in their own sacred places. And we just were like, we got to figure out a way to solve this problem. A home shouldn't be a place of stress like this. This shouldn't be something where we're all worried about what's going to be the next, massive financial problem that we're going to have to deal with. Are we going to have to worry about paying our mortgage or getting our roof replaced? Like, all of these things should be a simple solution, and we should have a way to protect our most valuable asset, which is our home. So that's why I think a home is more than a place. It's a sanctuary, really.
Right.
And that's kind of why that really is why we came up with Oply. We wanted to find a way using technology to make homeownership stress-free, because it is right now a nightmare. It really
Yeah.
is. Everything's breaking all the time. The fire alarms are going off in the middle of the night. You don't know why. It's just like, there's got to be a solution for this.
So that's kind of a good description of the premise behind the Oply app, if you will. And it's all about home service expertise
Mm-hmm.
for a homeowner. But what exactly does it provide? If somebody were to log into Oply app,
Mm-hmm.
what is going to provide for them?
What we're doing is, and I don't want anyone to get scared of the word AI, because sometimes people like maybe don't understand what it is, or we watch this show Murderbot on Apple TV where AI takes over. But what we're doing is we have really, really good ML engineers who are training these models to allow us to predict what your home specifically needs without you having to think about it. So think about your phone now being an operating system that sits in your pocket and monitors all aspects of your home, everything from, the weather that's coming through, to the different types of risk associated with the systems, to if I defer this maintenance that was recommended, what are some of the financial implications of that? So we're using the new technology to predict what the homeowner needs. And then think of it almost in a sense of like you can order an Uber in seconds, one click, I want to get here. That's how we're curating the solution for the homeowner, where they can just one click book to get that taken care of. I think one of the best kind of use cases and examples that really embodies what Oply does is there was a hailstorm that came through. It was in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. The homeowner obviously, fast asleep. And Oply was wide awake in the background. What it did was it got the weather trigger. It understood there's a hailstorm coming through. It cross-referenced the insurance policy of the homeowner. It cross-referenced the warranty that the homeowner had on the roof. We knew exactly what type of roof was on this home. It was like a 2018 gaff timberline, so susceptible to hail damage if that's the case. And we were able then to identify that the homeowner needed an inspection within 72 hours in order for them to file a claim if there was actual damage found. If not, it was going to have to come out of the homeowner's pocket for any damage that's found, even if it's later on down the line. And so by the time the homeowner woke up, within one click, they could book that inspection. It was free because it was covered under the warranty, which most people don't even know. And it saves them thousands of dollars when it comes time to actually file that claim.
It sounds to me like you were saying in the beginning about AI, most people don't know a whole lot about it, and some are in the it scares me territory, some are in the I'm going to embrace it territory. But either way, I think most people's impression of AI would be like, say, for example, with ChatGPT, you have to kind of search what you want it to give back to you. What you're describing kind of sounds like it's going to prompt you what you need to do before you even inquire.
Yes, exactly. It's contextual AI. So it's operating in the background. It's promptless. The homeowner does not have to prompt Oply. Oply prompts the homeowner when it identifies something. And then the homeowner at this point is simply the decision maker. So it's something as simple as, hey, it's the time of year to get your lawn aerated. We didn't do this last year, and your grass was brown, whatever it came back to be.
Yeah.
And maybe something like, hey, it's time to winterize your irrigation system. Let's flush that so this year it doesn't burst in the middle of December. All of these little reminders and little things, adding the salt to your water purifier that homeowners forget about. We don't think about these types of things because we're off running our lives and raising our families and everything. So we shouldn't have to think about these things. So that's what Oply is there for.
That's amazing. That's incredible. And we'll tell everybody at the end here where they'll be able to learn more about it.
Mm-hmm.
Before we wrap it up today, I did find out quite a few fun facts about you, and you could thank your social media for that.
Okay.
And this is just on a little bit of a lighter note. One of the fun facts that I found out about you is that among everything else that we've discovered about you today, and that's really just scratching the surface, I also learned that you're a drummer.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a huge music guy. I love all types of music, and I would wonder for you, as potentially somebody that's a skilled drummer, if you had the opportunity to be behind the drums for any band, one song, one time, who's the band?
Okay, I gotta say to all my Swifties out there.
All right, this is good. This is good.
If I could play if Taylor Swift was there, I probably wouldn't be able to play because I'd be passed out in excitement, but I would love to play one of her songs. That would be phenomenal. I also grew up really loving 21 Pilots.
Okay.
So that would probably be something that would be fun to play, but I guess like going more into the Red Hot Chili Peppers would be the third. I'd move the Red Hot Chili Peppers definitely into second place. Taylor Swift.
Now that's all iconic, and if Taylor Swift is listening, she just was presented with a wonderful opportunity. There you go.
Be very fun.
There we go. All right, now listen, I can't thank you enough for having spent time with us today. We've learned just a little bit about you, but at the same time, we've learned a lot. And I've been talking with Lindsey Chrismon, CEO and co-founder of Oply. You can follow Lindsay and Oply on her socials by searching Lindsey Chrismon or by searching Oply. Learn more about Oply online at www.oply.app. This has been Harmony Talk by A.M. Skyer, a third-generation family insurance business started in 1920. I'm Greg Frigoletto. Thank you to Lindsey Chrismon for being with us today. To our listeners, continue to dream and keep doing.